All right. It is Friday.
And we're fired up.
We are fired up. What's up,
Bo,
bro?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, but like, man, how many miles this week did you log?
It has been about 2.5 weeks on the road with, I don't think there was a single night that I got more than 4 or 5 hours sleep. Probably 5 was the max a couple times. So we're running on Red Bull and dreams.
I love it, dude. Black coffee and resentment.
Yeah, there you go. Anger can take you a long way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of spite as fuel.
Hey, I heard somebody say that one time. They go, every successful person has some sort of chip on their shoulder, and I was like, that's not. And I was like, actually, that might be true.
Can confirm.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. And I'm like, wait, the first real estate office I walked into, she laughed me out of the room, and I was like, all right. I was
Yep,
I'm gonna do this. Yes,
duly noted.
Duly noted. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I'm still that way, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you toil in the shadows or whatever, and every once in a while you get a little bit of reassurance of like, oh, you know, I was talking to Lance this morning. I was like, dude, check this, like a bunch of stuff going on or whatever. I'm like, man, it's like 10 years ago, I would have, you know, given anything to be at the access point that we're at now, and the line of affiliate businesses or whatever that would cut off a pinky toe and give it to me to get that access goes around the block.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's and yet here we still are, just
here
like
we are.
Yeah, you know, filling sandbags and stacking them.
That's
but
it.
That's okay. You know, that's part of the game and you know, life in the big city. So now, I'm curious, are you energized by the frantic, you know, asses and elbows up? Oh my God, 4 hours of sleep. Boom, boom. Because it was like, dude, I saw the highlights and like, dude, you did have some heavy hitters. I messaged you and said like, dude,
Harrison.
Harrison.
Yep.
And then Michelle was there, you know, you took local and live up there. But, and to think like
sometimes I get a pinch myself and I'm like, are these my, like, right? I'm hanging out with, you know, like the other night, like I was hanging out with Brad Allen, who's one of my best friends, but sometimes we go to events. I'm like, oh wait, he is the guy, you know what I mean? Because right, I'm like, hey, you know, the guy that I get to hang out with all the time is actually the guy. And you know, we had dinner with a good friend of mine, Kendra, and she won The Apprentice. You know, the third season of The Apprentice.
Oh snap!
You know, so we're walking around New York, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this is where we did this, and I'm like, "Oh shoot!" Like you're like, you know, sometimes you forget.
Yeah, you like,
but like these are amazing people that they're doing huge things. And here's what's interesting though: you talk about getting in the room. I'm like, why are these people spending time with me? You know, sometimes we kind of have that moment. And I'm like, it is so not about my accomplishments in the sense, it's more about the relationship. And I actually give a rip. Like they give a rip about me, I give a rip about them, right? And the level of conversation we're able to have. Like Kendra and I were talking, you know, one night at one of the events, and we were just both sharing our hate for small talk and our love for deep conversations, you know. But like you really do attract those kinds of people into your world because of who you are. It's less about what you do. Like you gotta do the work.
You gotta do something.
Yeah, right. But it's so much more about that stuff.
I agree. And so this is it's been, now I didn't fly anywhere or anything, but there have been events every other day for the last week and a half. Got the Women Who Win later today.
So good. It's awesome.
And like they're talking exactly about what you were saying of the people that are my friends. And it's like, oh, wow. Now, I won't take 100% credit for the Women Who Win, but just the fact that it'll pass through my head to where like, okay, we're promoting it, and we're doing promos, and we're cutting stuff, and we're posting stuff, and then like, wait a minute, I don't know for an absolute certainty that they met doing the show, but just the way that like, okay, you and I
love being able to like know that I had a piece of that,
and so I'm hanging out with Andrea Miller yesterday, and we're meeting, you know, big time. We're just doing stuff, and to sit there and think like, wow.
Yeah.
And then I said something about either you or somebody else, and she's like, oh my God, isn't anybody you don't know? And then so Daniel Eng, one of my extended family and business partners, and my landlord or whatever, he went to high school with the broker that we're
oh really?
Yeah. And it was just like, you know, like, okay. And then the fact that, you know, at a certain level, these become your peers or whatever, and then they think you're cool or they think you're all right, and then it's like, wow, am I approaching credibility? You know, am I approaching being valid?
Yeah.
And then just to see how you can wind stuff up and then let it go, and it goes this way, and then everybody that's at the event today, that came about by way of, so you and I do the show, and I know you because of 15 other different connections and whatnot. And then Michelle is a guest. And then it's like, well, Wayne travels a lot. Maybe I'll get Michelle as a substitute.
Yeah.
So then she comes in, and then Ashley comes in
Yeah.
during one of the substitutes, and it's like,
We don't
wait a
wanna
minute.
leave. Yeah.
This was awesome. How about we do a thing where she comes
Right.
in, and all of that, and then it's like, hey, we're going to do an event.
Yes.
Like, whoa, okay. And
So
then
cool.
seeing like you there in New York
Yeah.
with somebody that, okay, like, wow, dude, that guy was legit. Cause I remember him in Birmingham like 6 years ago.
Dude.
And to be like, oh yeah, that's right. I went and did
Yeah.
that, and like all of these things stack. And yet I still feel like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I'm not doing enough and like nothing's happening.
Well, and here's the thing, like, and we talked about it was interesting. We're at 30 under 30, and everybody's kind of giving one piece of advice. And the one of the things that I said is, like, comparison's the thief of joy. So, like, when you're in a room like this, and you hear, like, there was a 24-year-old kid in there that has over 200 rentals, and literally started from scratch. And you just go there, and you're like, he's talking, you're like, I've done nothing with my life. You know what I mean? He's like, well, it's been 8 minutes and now I'm worth whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And right, but comparison, but it's easy to compare yourself to everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where, but like you said, it's so we all feel like we're not doing enough. And it's good to be driven and keep going and never give up and all that. But you got to be careful that that doesn't turn into like self-deprecation of like just beating yourself up all the time. So like in a room like that, I always think about like, how can I let this, instead of turning into comparison, which is going to eat my soul alive, how do I turn this into inspiration?
Yes.
Like, man, if that dude can do it, like I can probably ask him some questions. I can probably figure it out, right? If this person can do this. So, I think that's tough to do that, not get lost in your head. So it kind of goes back to like, how can I show up in that room and just give value, find the 2 or 3 things that are meant for me, take those 1 or 2 and then go from it.
And the human nature aspect of, we always compare up.
Yes.
It's
not weird.
Yeah, it is weird, and I'm sure that has some sort of Darwinian thing that is of value or was of value at some point in time. Where now it just and like the social media just is a force multiplier of that, and it's like, oh, you like to compare yourself to people that are doing better? Well, here's an endless loop of folks to compare
I think
yourself
all
to.
my friends, according to like the highlight reel of Facebook, all my friends have perfect relationships. Every single one of them is on vacation at all times. Right. Every single one of them, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it is. And then like, and then it gets real. Like we're sitting at dinner the other night and one of our friends is telling us about her island. Like legit island, right? I'm like, I'm trying to pay off my driveway. You know what I mean? Like I legit don't even have a car right now because it's in some shop somewhere. You know what I mean? And but it is. But then you can just have you find a place of like when what you've done doesn't dictate who I am, and I'm dictated by like me living in alignment with me being proud of the decisions I made today. Like that, when you get good with you and who you actually are, I think it changes everything else.
Yes, absolutely. And then, so now I'm curious, as far as all the heavy hitters you had there, was there like a common thread?
Dude, yeah, there was a couple common threads. A couple common threads that stood out. One is so many people are getting, almost everyone that's winning in that room is because they're getting intentional on, or they've been and they are intentional on relationships. So like, it's like, where's most of your business coming from? It's like, relationships. That's so much. And like we've talked about in the past, relationships with your business partners, relationship with your, like, it's all about how do I mirror technology and shaking hands. I need to do both, right? It's not just calling people. It's not just automating every single touch. How do I use automation and like, how do I kind of mirror those together? So that was huge. It's all about relationships. The other thing was like, and you know this, but the highest achievers consistently reveal that they're good at saying no to almost everything. They say no to so much and they choose to go like deep on 1 or 2 things, right?
Yes.
They're like, and one gal's like, hey, like somebody sent somebody a referral and they said, nope, no, thank you, because it wasn't in like their like 3-mile radius. You know what I mean? They're like, right. And they're like, this is where I work and love you. That's great. But like, I stay right here, and somebody else said like, hey, if it's not, I have 2 priorities right now, and if it doesn't fall into those 2 priorities, like it's a no. I don't care how good it is,
Wow.
And it's like it's so they consistently say yes to 1 or 2 things and go be the best at that, whereas most people are trying to be good at 48 things,
Yes.
and that's kind of the lie we're told, right? You should be good at everything, and it's like
Or you just get to a because like I'm curious how they got over. I assume, perhaps incorrectly, but I assume that everybody that is doing a thing or has the ability to do like half a dozen things,
yeah.
to get to the place where you literally can flip the switch and say like, okay, if it's not these two, it's no.
Right.
Meanwhile, these other 4 things are knocking at the door, and
Correct.
emailing you and
Yes.
texting you all day long. How do you get past that hurdle of the, oh shit, if I don't do these other 4, I'm going to starve to death or
Yeah.
what? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
There has to be like a dark, night of the soul or whatever
Yeah.
to just get to where like, no.
But I think part of it's the vision. Like, hey, if I do carry this to fruition, what does it look like? So I think that's part of it. And then I think another piece is like you got to have a good, almost like what's your question filter? What's your decision tree that helps you decide, right? So it's like, is this in alignment with my goals? Is this a high return on my investment? Can I do this? Like I love, there's a great book. If you've never read The Road Less Stupid, such a great book. No, seriously, it's like a brilliant book. So good. And one of the things he talks about in The Road Less Stupid is a great idea I can't implement well is a bad idea, at least for now.
Dude.
So there are so many things that are like great ideas, yet if I can't go, and I tell some of my clients all the time, like, cool, when in your schedule are you going to do that? Because you just told me 8 minutes ago you were overwhelmed and not getting the stuff done you've already committed to. So like I'm okay with this, but like a new goal without a reallocation of resources is a delusion.
So now to that, and having experienced that since July, Cruz is calling. Should we put him on?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, hey, dude, you're on the air.
Oh, let me call you back.
Long time
okay.
listener, first time caller.
Long time caller, first time listener.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so well, Cruz is not going to be on the show, as it turns out.
Gotcha. No, I was just gonna ask you what time you're gonna head over to that.
To the Women Who Win conference today. That's actually at
Ooh.
Metrotex from 12 to 4:30. I will be there approximately at 11:30 ish.
Boom.
I think.
Sure.
Give or take.
Give or take.
Ish.
All right. Well, I'll see you there.
All right, and that's Cruz. Everybody, he's going to be there. So
Cruz is the man.
yeah, why would you want to miss out?
You wouldn't.
Get your picture made.
Boom.
There you go.
Later. All right, that's our second ever live
Second,
caller.
yes.
Accidental live caller. All right.
for sure.
That's content right there, kids.
I love it.
Okay, so what was it? The idea of saying yes to something even though it is over. So like, okay, you've been to the second location now.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where, it
Yeah.
just kind of fell
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of the sky. But that was a big undertaking.
Big lift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To actually kind of, and it's still not entirely wrangled. It's orders of magnitude better than
Right.
it was a
For
month
sure.
ago. But that was one of those. And now, do you believe in this? Because it's like, I thought it and believed it or whatever in the moment, but hey, I might be full of shit, So it's like, there's a greater than zero chance that anything I say is just total bullshit. So be advised. But it was one of those things in the moment when Lance approached me for the whole partnership thing and expanding and all that. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it felt, like whatever. And then the thought of, there might be extra heavy lifting in this.
So I have a 24-hour rule that I follow 100% part of the time. Right. So but here's my
like that
24
qualifier.
hours rule, because you and I are both hell yeah guys, right? Like if I came up tomorrow and I'm like, hey, we're thinking about doing a mission to wherever, you'd be like, hell yeah, let's
Dude,
go.
I'm gonna do a conference on the moon.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
like 6 weeks, New Zealand. You'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, right? So I'm a hell yeah kind of guy. And any of my business partners know that I have a 24-hour rule. And 24 hours is like I will initially hell yeah, almost always. I'm getting better, but I will hell yeah. But I've worked to force myself to not commit to something until I've had like 24 hours to kind of marinate on it. Right? Because one of my business partners, John, one of my amazing business partners, he came to me with an idea once. I was like, man, hell yeah, let's do it. And he's like, cool, I'll get your real opinion tomorrow. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, dude, I know you. I know it takes you 24 hours to actually kind of let it process and formulate, yes, I'm all in on this, or no, I'm not. But it was funny because until he kind of brought that to my awareness, I wasn't really clear on that. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I think you're right. It is, but like, give yourself 24 hours. That's great. I need to talk to my business partner, who could be Tom the cat, right? But like, give yourself 24 hours before you commit to something.
And now that is one of those things where now with the level of self-awareness that I have, I say like, you know what? In the abstract and conceptually, I love that.
Yes.
I'm totally on board. Oh, and by the way, I'm never going to do that.
Right.
Odds
Yeah.
are,
Man.
I'm never going to do that.
And my favorite's like, man, I wish there was two of me. Right? Like, I wish there was two of me because that sounds amazing and that I've already committed
Ooh, I
to
like
this.
that's actually a good answer.
It's great.
Now, have there been any things where you took your 24-hour window and said no to something and then regretted it later?
I don't think I've ever regretted it. Wow. I think I've regretted not taking 24 hours for sure.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because at the end, I want to be a man of my word. So like, if I said I'm going to do it, like I want to do it. But you know, the third piece of that is I have got better at going and cleaning things up before I drop the ball. Right. So one of the things, like, so sometimes like I was like, I keep my word. But there were also times where it was appropriate to like honor my word, which meant like going back to someone saying, hey, I know I said I would do this. It sounded awesome. Then when I took a second to get over the excitement of how much I love you and want to do stuff with you, right? Like I realized I'm not able to come and do that event. Yet what can I do to help make up for that? Right. So like I want to honor my word. Sometimes honoring your word is different, right? So it's going back going like, hey, I know I wanted to do this. It sounded awesome. Yet I realized that I'm going to drop the ball or I don't really have the capacity to do it. Yet, you know, what if I did a video or what if I did this instead? Or what, you know, could we do this?
That is like so incredibly grown up and wise.
I know, it's
which,
weird.
of course, it was just like you just spoke a foreign language to me.
Yeah.
And again, I'll put that on the list of things that I ought to do.
But I literally thought there was just one or two ways unconsciously. Like you either honor your word or you drop the ball. And I was like, you know, you do your share, you're going to do your job. And I was like, okay, there's another level where I can honor my word and still sometimes need to, withdraw or do something differently.
And it is that aspect of, wow, the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
And sometimes the truth is like, wow, I said yes. And like, holy shit, I'm double booked, triple booked, or whatever.
Yes.
And all I'm going to do now is let you down.
Right.
And I'd rather not, or I'd rather do that now in the micro, but, until like, if it's the fourth quarter and now you're expecting yardage and like, whoops.
And I'm working on that all the time, like to be more in integrity with myself. And I remember a coach one time called me and he goes, like, where are you out of integrity with your word? I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And one of the things that we discovered is like somebody would come to me and go, hey, we should do lunch. And I'm like, that sounds freaking awesome. In the back of my mind, I'm like, hell no. Like you live in Missouri? Like, I don't want to do lunch with you. You know what I mean? Right. But like, so instead of be like, hell yeah, man, that'd be great. Right. Which I wanted to make them feel good. I wanted whatever in the moment might sound good. But now it's like, hey, lunch with you would be really fun. Yet my schedule's busy. I know your schedule's really busy. What if we did a half an hour Zoom and we really tackled what we needed to talk about? Right. So it's like, how can I stay in integrity and then not have to like deal with all the bullshit later?
That has a practical aspect that is less grab ass.
Yeah.
And like, hey, let's have coffee or lunch and just like, hey, let's get together and do some totally undirected thing.
Yeah.
And I was guilty of that for the longest time where I would say yes and I would overcommit. And then I had this weird psychological mechanism where I would resent the person that invited me.
Yes.
And not the dumbass, me that said I would go.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've spread myself too thin. Now I'm mad at you for asking me to do something.
So that's one of my principles is don't say yes to things that I'm going to resent.
Bingo. And a pro tip for that is say, hey, could you shoot me an email on that? Because I'm going to forget. And then I set my Gmail up where it auto populates to my calendar, but it doesn't say yes.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So that was one of the upsides of being a Google instructor or whatever, a tech nerd, where it was like, that was the thing that broke me of that habit. Because early on, as an affiliate, you get asked or voluntold or invited to a million things. And once, and then I have this, it's kind of the thing in recovery where we always joke about like, dude, I want to be invited. I don't want to go.
Right. Amen. Yeah.
And, but now I actually have the ability to be a little bit more discerning and then kind of circling back to what we were saying about the peer group and everybody and being excited for everybody. Like I'm fired up on Friday to go to the Winning Women's Wednesday Women Who Win thing today, just because I want to watch them do their thing. And historically I wasn't necessarily wired like that. So the whole thing about relationships and all of that is so true that I wish. It's like two things. I wish I could have had a little bit more insight to that back when I started. But, now that I look back and it's like, well, I'm glad that I did go to everything and hyperextend myself and to get this massive network of people. And thank God, mostly due to recovery, that I didn't burn any bridges or destroy anything. So like, oh wow, that all works out in the end. Now I wish I'd love to be able to say like that was a plan,
right?
But it was not. It was absolutely just happenstance, circumstance, and then a lot of right place, right time. But then you say something like, yeah, he's 24 and he has 273 rental properties, and we were in the elevator and he made $11,000 on the ride, and I'm like, bro, okay, like where was 24? Oh my God, I was
living our dream.
Well, and the idea 30 under 30, like, dude, I didn't get sober till I was 36.
Right. Yeah.
So like under 30. What?
Yeah.
And that always fascinates me because I don't know, is it nature, nurture? Like, where did these people come from? You know, the 30 under 30, 40. I'm like, is there 100 under 100?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, there is.
That I could maybe get, like, at least have a shot, you know? Or is there an over, like a, what is it, the over 50 community? You know?
But I think that's where the balance comes in, right? It's kind of like you said earlier, it's that whole gap in the gain, meaning I want to, like, at the end of every day, if I could just have every day end the way I want to do it, end kind of like this, right? I would end every day with going like, here's what was great, here's what I learned, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow, right? Like, here's what I'm going to do different, move forward. But like having that, like, here's what was great, here's what I learned, and here's what I'm going to carry forward. But like having that moment of gratitude. So instead of like, man, I could have done better today, I'm not far enough. It's like, I get that we need some of that, but it's like, I don't want to be complacent. But also beating myself up all the time for not being further isn't working either. So I need to give gratitude for like, hey, I may not be where I want to go, but like I'm a hell of a lot better than where I was when I was 24.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
But and like I'm excited to go see where I'm going to go next. So it's like, can I just get excited about playing the game? Meaning nobody wins. In other words, like nobody
Right.
like there's not like this final destination that you're like, oh, I've achieved everything I ever dreamed of. Like, no, we don't even want to get to that place.
Right. Given a long enough time horizon, everybody loses.
Right.
You know, and it's like the richest guy 100 years ago is no longer the
Right.
richest guy. You know, and Elon Musk is now, and then maybe Bezos the day after tomorrow, or you know how, and that'll change 50 years from now. So the idea that any of it is permanent. Now, I'm curious. This, you know, my gratitude and my love of the game came out of just that war of attrition at the beginning, where it was maybe like I'm comparing myself to somebody, or I'm fueled by spite and resentment or whatever. But the thing is, human nature is what it is. And so, like, you know, we all have these sort of base level motivators or whatever, but turns out you can't stay pissed forever.
Right.
And, you know, you can't, well, actually I have a couple of relatives maybe that, maybe, they gave it a shot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And they literally died from it.
Yeah, they gave it a shot. But the idea that suiting up and showing up was the biggest thing for me. And then, you know, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't. And that's where you get like fueled by the chip on the shoulder or the whatever. I wasn't invited, then I was. So I used to laugh about the Park Cities MLS meeting, like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years ago or whatever. It used to be every Tuesday at the Macaroni Grill. And it was like the first day of high school every Tuesday. And it was just like, if you wanted to be like just right sized and put into like your own little box, just show up to that. And it's like, let's see what you got. Cause it's like, dude, I could not tell you how many people showed up one time and never came back.
Yeah.
It was just, that was the thing. That, it was like very much like, you stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
If you weren't a you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but now I have no problems going to any of those things
Right.
or any of it. But at the beginning, it was like, oh, okay, that's what this is. So I just kept showing up.
Yeah.
You know, and over time, I guess maybe, you know, I do believe the universe rewards effort as far as like just
100%. Yeah.
just being willing
Yes.
to get in the ring. And then over time, it was like, oh, wow. Oh, shit, I'm in the ring.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I won that round,
Yeah.
you know? And, and then it's like you get a couple of decisions that go your way. And then it's
But it's being excited about it's your identity isn't built on the fact that you got in the ring. Your identity is built on the fact of like, I did hard things.
Yes.
I kept doing it. I keep showing up. Even if I get kicked out of this ring, I'm okay because I know who I am, right? Like, and I think the issue is like when our identity is tied to like, oh, I'm in the ring, I'm amazing. Oh, I'm out of the ring, I'm not amazing, right? But when your identity is attached to like, I do hard things, I show up, right? I keep at bat. I always come from contribution. Whatever it is, right? And like when you know who you are, then like it's really cool to get in the ring.
Yes.
But it doesn't like define you, and you're
Right.
not totally fucked up if you get kicked out of the ring for some reason.
Yes. Well, and so like last night, you know, I was talking to, so like it's so cool to have, you know, like my pack of strays that that all work for me, you know, and to see where, and especially in today's world where, you know, the social media and the internet has kind of commoditized a lot of stuff. But the idea of being a creative and or the emotions and the attachment that comes with the judgment of your work or whatever, it's like this weird, really weird, like hyper-focused thing where in reality, though, nobody cares. And so it's like this crazy balance. And, you know, I was talking to Lance's son last night, who's like 19. He's like, yeah, dude, and I could do it like color graded and LUTs and da-da-da-da. I'm like, dude, everybody in line at Kroger that would pay you to like do a video or make something or whatever, they don't even know what you're talking
Right.
about. And it's like you're gonna be in danger of getting trapped by making stuff in order to impress your friends and to do things to impress your peer group that will not advance the ball in the game.
Correct.
And, you know, because like Cruz will ask me a question like, why would we do this, or this? I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
He said something the other day where it's like, I understand all this stuff conceptually, you know, and it's like, I went to the Art Institute or whatever, but he goes like, hey, why don't we shoot in like 4:3 or, 3:2, you know, on the ratios or whatever? I'm like, I don't know, dude, we shoot rectangles.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah.
And I'd say that to him to try to illustrate, dude, don't get bogged down in that because it's either like it looks good and the audience likes it or it doesn't.
Keep in exactly. What's the goal we're after? Keep the future in mind, and like you said, make it simple. We make it way too complicated, right? Like and I think it's why a lot of realtors are struggling right now is they're all focused on the feature, right? I do this, I do this, I do this. And it's like nobody cares. What's the benefit,
Right?
Because I do this, you're able to sleep at night. Because I do this, you're going to go on vacation because you know you're not going to overpay for your house, right? Like, what's the benefit that they get for
Look at
them,
that.
not just the feature?
Yeah, you just drop some like the value add proposition, like boom, boom. Well, and that was the thing. So we were at the dude. It has been like events, like whirlwind events. Day before yesterday, like last night was this charity gala thing. Here's another pro tip: if you don't want to wear a black tie to the black tie event, volunteer to do photo and video.
Yeah, get a black T-shirt and rock and roll. There you go,
Dude.
Entrepreneur tuxedo.
Can confirm. But like the day before was the Realtor Playbook.
Yeah,
And it was, you know, there's a bunch of panic attack vibes in the room. And it's like, I don't know. For me, it's always been if you're good and you don't quit, or if you don't suck and you don't quit, you'll be fine.
yeah, you're gonna be okay.
You know,
yeah.
but the idea of there is no shortcut to any of it.
No.
You know, and everybody there was kind of not that they were actively looking for or soliciting for like what is the cheat code, what is, but they, you know, they were kind of tap dancing around and it's like, no, there isn't one.
No.
You know?
No, the best thing we can do, like we all learn from experiences. So, and somebody says it was really interesting. They go, we all learn from experiences. They don't all have to be yours, though. Like you can learn from somebody else's experience, right? Which is great. But the best we can do is we can collapse time, I think, but you don't get a skip. Right,
Yes.
so like you can collapse time, right? Like I can learn
Coaching
from
can
you and
collapse,
learn
yeah.
from you, or I can read a book and I can take it from, hey, this would have been a 3-month project, or this is like a 2-week project. Like that's great, but you still got to do the stuff. There is no shortcut. There's no way around. Like you still got to do the stuff. And if you half-ass it, usually it means it's just going to take you 3 times longer in the long run.
Yes. And there is something about like what my grandfather would have told me, like the whole thing, the hard work pays off. And there is, you know, the esteem and the worth that is built from just doing the
Doing hard
thing.
stuff, yeah.
You know,
Yep.
It's like, damn. So should we do let's see, want to do one
Sure,
question?
sure. Let's do one.
Okay.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah, buddy. Let's get in here.
By the way, it was nice. The traffic and the weather in Dallas was beautiful to get back to yesterday.
Bro.
That was awesome.
Okay, so let's see here. What is the one recent trend you've observed in entrepreneurship that excites you for the future?
That excites me for the future. I think that entrepreneurs are more, at least maybe it's just my world, but they feel more collaborative than they have in the past, which is cool. And I think that it is cool to hear about how important, like people are appreciating the relationship piece, I think, more than they were for a while. Like for a while, it was like just, and maybe it's just the worlds that you and I are part of, but like for a while, it just felt like, what can I sell to how many people, right? Like, can I
Yes.
sell an $8
Super
widget
transaction, yeah.
to 1 billion people, even if it doesn't help them at all?
Yes. Yeah, the
And-
ends justified the means.
Yeah, and I think we've transitioned a little bit into like, no, actually, like I only want to do something if it checks multiple boxes. Like, yes, it needs to check the income box. Like that's important. We are, but in order to keep doing this thing, income has to come in, right? But like, is it also checking like it aligns with my values? And it makes an impact. And like, I think we're kind of like not selling for things that don't do those, which I think is good.
And I love the fact that you led off with the collaborative thing.
Yeah.
Because I've got, so like, okay, now we started doing like social media management. And my first initial thing was like, okay, I've got these agents that, you know, we've done, you know, like 4 or 5 years worth of content. So there's a shitload of back catalog to actually like essentially boost their ROI on what they've already paid for. But the other thing was, well, who else in your office would be on board with if we're running, like, let's say we were doing the Hero Nation thing
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, well, who else would you be on board with in your little network
Yeah.
to where like you can boost their stuff, da 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 da, and rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely.
And so like if I had, let's say like the Keller Williams Dallas Preston Road, the handful of agents that,
Yeah.
that I do a bunch of stuff for there, it's like, okay, well, what if everybody kind of got, and then everybody's been on board.
Yeah,
And I'm
so
like, oh,
interesting.
because it used to not be that. It used to be
Yeah.
like, the knives would come out. And so the collaborative thing, I love it.
It reminds me when I grew up in downtown Halifax, Nova Scotia, and there was like one corner that had like 4 pizza shops. And you think like that's weird, like for a pizza shop on each corner. But like, hey, if you want pizza, you went to Pizza Corner, right? Like you show up with 5 people and you all go to your favorite one, and then you come back in the middle, right? But it was like you would think that would make no sense, and yet right, they're all together. Like yesterday, whenever it was, I was in New York and we stayed in like the flower district, right? So you wake up, you walk out of your hotel, and there's just like 20 flower shops each side of the street. Flower, I mean, it's just amazing. But like, if you want to go buy flowers, where do you go? You go to the flower
Yeah,
street,
well,
and there's 30 people, but they actually all do better because they're all there, which
Yeah.
is so counterintuitive to what we've kind of been taught. But like you said, it
Yep.
rises
And
everybody.
there is that underlying aspect of capitalism where if it is like a free market and a fair market,
Yeah.
it forces you to be better than the other guy or different or whatever.
Absolutely.
But in doing that, everybody has an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
So what's up next? Any parting thoughts?
Man, well, besides hockey, sports, everything else, Wayne's going to take a nap at some point, and now I need to. I'm excited to spend several hours, kind of like going through all the notes, all those things, and distilling some kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
top
there you go.
takeaways and everything
Okay.
else, and be able to kind of put in order. Like, hey, here's all the things. Here's what I want to share, and here's what I want to implement. So now we got
Right
to go
on.
spend a minute in the cave and just kind of make sure we get the value of what we've done, because we all go to way too many events and then don't actually do anything.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, today, Women Who Win, Monday, volunteer fair at Metrotex.
Yep.
So it's like
Nice.
it's like I don't know, 6 events in 5 days.
It's awesome.
Something like
so
that.
cool.
All right, brother. Well, I'm glad
right.
you're back.
Hey, good to be back.
Yeah.
Get fired up.
Hell yeah. Take us out, Peter.